The one main aim of the call of God is the satisfaction of God, not a call to do something for Him. This is powerful, The call of God at the end of the day is not just reduced to a task. The ultimate purpose of the call is for what? It's the satisfaction of God. That God is satisfied by you. And the call divorced from the caller is meaningless. If God is not in your work, if He's not the focus, then your work is not a call. Is that okay? And then when you understand that, then you know certain vocations just cannot be a call of God. Why? Because God cannot be involved in it. You cannot come as a drug trafficker and say, my calling is to be a drug trafficker. My work is my call. No. If God is not in it, there is no call. The call divorced from the caller is meaningless. Now, take a look at Ecclesiastes chapter 2. Are you okay so far? Can you take a little bit more before we break? Okay, let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 2. Let me read for you verse 10 and verse 11. My heart took delight in all my work, and it was the reward for all my labor. Yet when I surveyed all that my hands have done and what I have toiled to achieve, everything was meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Nothing was gained under the sun. Now, what is Solomon saying here? Simply this. No amount of career advancement can bring lasting satisfaction. Solomon says, my heart took delight in my work. It was a reward for all my labors. But yet when I really look at it, at the end of the day, it is all meaningless. So the bottom line is this. If our work is our principal means of finding satisfaction in life, we will never be satisfied. Because at the end of the day, it is in God that we will find our satisfaction. It is in the Father that we will find fulfillment, not in our work. But yet at the same time, we know that our work is ordained by God. Okay, so what we need to do then is to create a balance between the two. Okay, how do you hold this whole thing in tension? Now, I think when you think about this whole distortion and finding the middle path, can I just give you another model that can help us to find that balance? Okay? All right. Let me share this model with you, and then I'd like you to talk to each other for a while. Now, how do you balance this? I think we need to recognize, first of all, that there are two aspects to the call. Okay? If we talk about what is your calling, there are two aspects to it. One is there is a primary call. The primary call is a call to be. It's a call to be. And then our primary call basically is a calling to be. It is a call to someone. It is a call not to something, but to someone. It's not a call to somewhere. It is a call to someone. It is a call to a person, not a task. It is a call to fellowship with Christ. That is our first and primary call. Is that okay? Everybody clear? See, before you are called to do anything, you are first called to be a disciple of Christ. That's the first thing. You are first called out of the kingdom of darkness into His marvelous light. You are first called to be with Christ. It's a call to be followers of Christ. And this primary call, we all share. Every single believer share in this primary call, the call to be. This is the call to the caller. You are called to the caller first. Okay? Then after that, there's a secondary call. Now this one, notice, I would say there are secondary callings. There's a primary calling, which is a call to be, the call to the caller. But then after that comes secondary callings, plural. It's a call to do. So it's a call to do now. And this is where you deal with the call. What are you called to do? Are you clear on this? Before you are called to do anything, you are first called to the Lord Himself. Okay? Now, this secondary callings is different for every one of us. God will call us to do different things. Some of us will be called to be doctors, some to be lawyers, accountants, homemakers, pastors, etc. They are callings rather than calling because it can shift. Richard was once a businessman. That was his call at one time. But then God shifted his station. Now he's become an evangelist full time. See, his calling have shifted. Makes sense, right? There are secondary callings. And listen carefully to this. Don't miss this one. Secondary callings matters only because primary calling matters most. Say it one more time, huh? Secondary callings matter only because primary calling matters most. So if your primary call is not important to you, the secondary call is meaningless. Take the caller out. Doesn't matter what you do. Whether you will be a lawyer or a doctor, it doesn't matter because it's meaningless already. If we don't focus on the to be, then whatever you do is meaningless. So the two has to be held in tension. Clear? Give me a smile if you're clear. Act intelligent, you know. Very good. Okay. Now, if this is clear to you, then the question to ask is this. All right. If this part is clear, then we ask ourselves, how then do we know what are the callings? Am I doing what I'm supposed to do now? In my work, is this what God wants me to do? Now, how do we understand that? Now, so let's talk a little bit now on the secondary callings. Okay, let's take a quick look at this. I show you a picture, and then we'll take a break. Now, how does God actually take us into our secondary callings? Then, how does He lead us from one thing to another? Now, one of the most helpful things that I have heard when it comes to this area, I read a book entitled Call Waiting. It's a book written by an author that's little known, but it's a good book. And this author had a very strange name. His name is Robert Hartnett. So I thought it's a strange name. But he wrote a very good statement in his book that goes like this. He says, in order to discover your call, we must do what we are already doing. I thought that's refreshing. In order to discover your call, we must do what we are already doing. I said, wow, that's interesting. Never heard that one before. But as I thought about it, I realized it's quite true. Take, for example, Peter and John. What was Peter and John doing before the call came to them? Fishing, right? Of course, these guys are fishermen. What do you expect them to do? Now, what was Matthew doing before God called him? Collecting taxes. Of course, he's a tax collector. He was just doing what he was already doing. And then the call came. Makes sense, right? Think about it for yourself. It's also like that. Now, in the light of that, a model came out that I'd like to put it on the board for you, and then we can discuss this. It goes like this. How do I know my call? First thing you need to do, you must live life. You must be alive. If you're not alive, how can anybody call you? Gone already. So you must live life first. And as you live life, what happened is that events will accumulate. Okay, let's revisit this whole idea. Events accumulate. That means stuff happens. Good things, bad things, normal things, the good, bad, the ugly, all happen. And as events begin to accumulate in our life, we reach what we call a listening point. Listening point. That means so many events have accumulated that you cannot remain as you are. You have to make some kind of decision. Something has to change. Things cannot go on anymore. You're against the wall. You have to decide. And usually when you reach a listening point, due to all these events accumulate, at this point, if you respond correctly to the Lord, it becomes for you a call.